Imagine being stranded on the open ocean, desperate to get home to your family, only to have your path blocked by vengeful gods, man-eating monsters, and temptations that could trap you forever. This is a world of Christopher Nolan's epic masterpiece, The Odyssey, starring Matt Damon. And the journey we're about to unfold is one of survival, wit, and the unbreakable will of a man who refuses to surrender. But before Odysseus can even think about his kingdom of Ithaca, he must survive a war that will define his era. Our story begins not on the shores of Ithaca, but amidst the ashes of a 10-year siege. The Trojan War is over. The great city of Troy has fallen. But this victory came at a terrible cost, and the air is thick with the smoke of a burning civilization. After years of bloodshed, Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, stands in the ruins of Troy alongside his loyal crew of sailors, ready to finally return home to his wife, Queen Penelope, and his infant son, Telemachus. He should feel triumph, but the destruction all around him is a grim reminder of the horrors of war. The Greeks have won, but victory has a hollow ring. As Odysseus' fleet of ships set sail across the wine-dark sea, a moment of reckless pride will change everything. Flush with victory, Odysseus declares that he, a mortal man, was the architect of the Greeks' triumph. This boast is not just arrogance. It is a direct affront to the gods who orchestrated the war's outcome. Specifically, his words reach the ears of Poseidon, the god of the sea, a deity not known for his patience or forgiveness. Poseidon is infuriated. How dare this mere mortal claim glory meant for the divine? The god of the ocean vows to make Odysseus' journey a living hell. He is determined to make the king of Ithaca understand his place in the cosmic order. He declares that Odysseus will reach his homeland, but not before he learns a painful lesson about humility and the power of the gods. And with that, Poseidon unleashes a terrible storm upon the fleet, scattering the ships and setting the stage for a decade of torment. Odysseus and his men struggle to survive, battered by waves and winds. As they search for safe harbor, their first major encounter will test their resolve and cost them more than they could ever imagine. They stumble upon a lush, green island, a place of apparent abundance. Exhausted and hungry, a group of men led by Odysseus goes to explore. They find a massive cave, filled with cheese, milk, and pens of sheep. But the inhabitant is no friend. The ground begins to shake. A giant of terrifying size blocks the entrance, rolling a colossal stone across it to seal the men inside. This is the Cyclops, Polyphemus. He is a monstrous being with a single, glaring eye in the center of his forehead, and to him, Odysseus and his men are nothing more than a meal. He grabs two of the soldiers, smashing them against the stone floor before devouring them in a display of brutal savagery. The men are trapped, horrified, and watching their comrade be eaten alive. Odysseus knows that brute force is futile against this creature. He must use his mind to survive. He offers the Cyclops a potent, unwatered wine, a drink that Polyphemus has never tasted before. The beast, relishing the new flavor, greedily drinks, becoming drunk and belligerent. The Cyclops asks Odysseus his name. Odysseus, ever the strategist, seizes this opportunity. He tells the monster his name is Nobody. As the giant falls into a drunken stupor, Odysseus and his men seize a massive, sharpened stake, heating it in the embers of the fire until it glows white-hot. With a surge of adrenaline and a cry of rage, they plunge the stake into the Cyclops' single eye, blinding him. The cavern shudders with the monster's agonized screams. The other Cyclopses on the island hear the commotion and call out to Polyphemus, asking who is hurting him. His desperate, enraged reply is a testament to Odysseus' cunning. Nobody is hurting me. Believing he is simply mad, the other giants offer him no help. As Polyphemus, blinded and in agony, moves a massive stone from the cave's entrance to try and catch his attackers, Odysseus orders his men to cling to the underside of the giant sheep as they are let out to graze. They escape, clinging to the woolly bellies of the animals as they pass by the groping hands of the blind Cyclops. But as they board their ship and sail away, Odysseus makes another costly mistake. He is overcome with pride and taunts the helpless monster, shouting his true identity across the waves. The blind giant, enraged, prays to his father, Poseidon, telling him the name of the man who has wronged him. This act of hubris ensures that the god of the sea will hunt Odysseus until the end of his days. The crew thinks they are safe, but they have no idea that the worst is still to come. Poseidon has heard his son's prayer, and his rage will now follow Odysseus across every inch of the ocean. The surviving crew, though battered and grieving, presses on. Their next stop is the island of the Aeolian king, the god of the winds. Aeolus, hearing their plight, takes pity on them. He gifts Odysseus a tightly bound bag containing all the storm winds of the world, the very winds that have been plaguing their journey. He also gives him a single, gentle west wind to guide his ship directly home to Ithaca. With this divine aid, the voyage should be a simple one. For 9 days and nights, they sail peacefully, Ithaca growing ever closer on the horizon. Odysseus, exhausted, finally falls asleep. But fate, as it often does, intervenes. His men, jealous and suspicious, believe their king is hoarding treasure. When Ithaca is finally within sight, they make a fatal decision. Believing the bag contains gold and riches, they tear it open. A chaotic torrent of hurricane-force winds explodes, blasting the ship far away from their homeland and back into the unknown. The moment of their salvation is shattered by their own greed, and they are at the mercy of the sea once more. The look of despair on Odysseus' face as he watches his homeland vanish into the distance is heartbreaking. He had been so close, mere hours from embracing his wife and son, and now it is all gone because of the foolishness of his own men. This setback leads him to the island of the sorceress, Circe, a beautiful but dangerous witch. The men, tired and desperate for food, are invited into her palace. They are offered a feast of cheese and barley laced with honey and Pramnian wine, but it is all a trap. The magical potion makes them drowsy. With a wave of her wand, Circe transforms the men into filthy, squealing pigs. Their cries for help become nothing but grunts and squeals. One man, escaping the spell, rushes back to tell Odysseus the terrible news. As Odysseus rushes toward the palace, he is intercepted by the god Hermes, the messenger of the gods, who provides him with a magical herb called moly to protect him from the sorceress spells. He is able to resist some magic and forces Circe to restore his men to human form. Intrigued by Odysseus, Circe seduces him. He and his men, weary and broken, end up staying on her island for an entire year. They are trapped by a comfortable limbo, forgetting their mission and their families. After a year of forgetting their purpose, his men finally implore him to continue their journey. But one final blow is coming. Before they can leave, Circe makes a grim pronouncement. To find his way home, Odysseus must not sail any further. He must travel to a place that no living man can enter. He must journey to the Underworld, the land of the dead, to consult the spirit of the blind prophet Tiresias. Only the ghost of this prophet can tell him how to get home. The living must enter the realm of death itself. Odysseus' courage faces its ultimate test. He leads his men to the gloomy shores of the river Styx. He sacrifices a ram, and the dark spirits of the dead are drawn to the blood. The atmosphere is suffocating, cold, and filled with the whispers of lost souls. Here, he encounters the shade of Tiresias, who tells him that the reason for his long journey is his own pride, and warns him of the perils ahead. The sirens, Scylla, and Charybdis. Even more heartbreakingly, he sees the spirit of his own mother, Anticle. She reveals that she died of grief, heartbroken by his long absence and waiting on the shores for his return. Overwhelmed with sorrow and new resolve, Odysseus flees the underworld, but his trials are far from over. He must now navigate the treacherous strait of Scylla and Charybdis. One side of the narrow strait is dominated by a massive, six-headed serpentine monster named Scylla. The other side is a massive whirlpool called Charybdis. As they sail through, Scylla descends from her cliff, snatching 6 men from the deck, 1 for each head, devouring them as the crew watches in helpless horror. They lose 6 good men to survive. The screams of his soldiers will haunt Odysseus forever. Odysseus has lost more men and is broken by grief. But the gods are not done with him yet. The most seductive trap of all is waiting for him on a beautiful island paradise. They eventually reach another island, the magical home of the goddess Calypso. This is a place of immense beauty and comfort, a paradise where no one could ever want to leave. The beaches are pristine, the forests are lush, and the air is filled with the sweet scent of flowers. Calypso falls in love with Odysseus, but her love is possessive. She holds him prisoner on her island for 7 long years, promising him immortality if he stays forever. She wants him to be her eternal companion. Odysseus, despite being treated with kindness and offered everything a man could desire, weeps every single day on the shoreline, staring out at the endless sea. He yearns for his home, his wife, and his son. He does not want eternal life. He wants to live and die as a mortal man on the island he loves. This emotional torment is perhaps the most painful trial of all. He is trapped not by monsters, but by the seductive prison of comfort and immortality. Meanwhile, in Ithaca, the situation is equally desperate. Hundreds of arrogant suitors have overrun Odysseus' palace. They are draining his resources, consuming his livestock, and drinking his wine. They are trying to force Penelope to choose a new husband. These men are disrespectful, boorish, and have no intention of leaving. They believe Odysseus is dead, and that the kingdom is theirs for the taking. Penelope, however, remains fiercely loyal to her missing husband. She uses her wit to delay them, weaving a burial shroud for Odysseus' father by day and unraveling it by night. For 3 years, she has kept the suitors at bay with this clever deception, but time is running out. Her patience is wearing thin, and the suitors are becoming increasingly aggressive. Telemachus, now grown into a young man played by Tom Holland, has traveled in search of his father. Guided by the goddess Athena, he visits various kingdoms, hoping for news, but with little success. He feels the weight of his father's legacy and the shame of the suitors destroying his home. He is desperate to prove himself worthy of the throne, and Penelope fears for her son's life. Finally, the gods intervene. Zeus commands Calypso to release Odysseus, and with the help of Hermes, the king builds a new raft and sets sail. But Poseidon, seeing him on the water, is enraged again. He unleashes a final catastrophic storm, shattering the raft and sending Odysseus into the churning ocean. The waves are mountainous, the wind is deafening, and Poseidon is determined to drown the king once and for all. Odysseus is tossed and thrown, swallowing salt water, fighting for every breath. He is nearly drowned, clinging to a piece of wreckage. Just when all hope seems lost, the goddess Ino appears and gives him a magical veil that will protect him. He eventually washes ashore on the island of the Phaeacians, exhausted, naked, and completely broken. He has survived the storm, but he is a shell of the king who left Troy all those years ago. Odysseus is found by a kind princess, but he is too ashamed to reveal his identity. Who is this mysterious stranger, and what story does he hide? He is found by the princess Nausicaa, who guides him to her father, King Alcinous. Odysseus, still hiding his identity, is treated as an honored guest. He is given food, clothing, and a place to rest. At a grand feast held in his honor, he hears a blind bard sing of the Trojan War. He cannot hide his grief any longer. Alcinous, seeing his reaction, presses him to reveal who he is. The room falls silent. All eyes on the mysterious stranger. Odysseus finally reveals his name and tells his entire story, from the fall of Troy to the island of Calypso. He recounts every battle, every betrayal, and every death. The Phaeacians are captivated. They are moved by his tale of endurance and tragedy. They decide to help him. They give him a ship laden with treasure and sail him home, dropping him off on Ithaca in a deep sleep. They have fulfilled their duty, and the king of Ithaca is finally, truly home. He awakens to find himself on his own shores, but it is a foreign land to him. He has been gone for 20 years. He is disoriented and unsure. The landscape looks different. He does not recognize the beach or the hills. Athena, who has always championed him, appears to him. She is his greatest ally among the gods. She warns him that his palace is overrun, and that he cannot simply walk in as a king. She disguises him as a frail, old beggar, covered in rags and wrinkles. In this disguise, he reunites with his son, Telemachus. Their reunion is emotional and tearful. Odysseus is looking at his son for the first time since he was a baby. Telemachus is now a man. He reveals his identity, and the two embrace, their tears mingling. They make a pact to take back the palace. The two plan their revenge. The suitors must be destroyed, and Odysseus wants to witness their arrogance firsthand. In the palace, Penelope, plagued by the suitors, devises one final contest. She has lost hope that Odysseus will return. She is tired of the constant pressure. She proclaims that she will marry the man who can string Odysseus' great bow and shoot an arrow through a line of 12 axe heads. This is an impossible task. The bow is massive, and only Odysseus has the strength to string it. All the suitors try and fail. They strain and grunt, but they cannot even bend the wood. The disguised Odysseus watches calmly from the shadows. He steps forward. The suitors mock him. Who is this feeble old beggar? They laugh. But Odysseus is not feeble. With the strength of a god, he strings a bow with ease. The entire whole gasps. He fires an arrow through all 12 axe heads, a perfect shot. The room is silent. They know something is terribly wrong. The arrow has been shot. The beggar has performed the impossible. And then, in the silence of the hall, the old man sheds his disguise and reveals his true face. In that moment, his disguise melts away. He turns to the crowded hall, to the 108 suitors who have plagued his home. His sons stand beside him, ready to fight. He fires the arrow again, and this time it flies straight through the throat of Antinous, the worst of the suitors. The suitors panic. They scramble for weapons, but Odysseus is a whirlwind of fury. He is no longer a tired old man. He is a warrior king, consumed by 20 years of rage and grief. He pulls out his sword and charges into the crowd. Telemachus fights beside him, a warrior at last. Together, they are unstoppable. The hall becomes a slaughterhouse. Chairs are smashed, tables are overturned, and the walls are splattered with blood. Odysseus, having been through the depths of hell, is a man possessed, fueled by 20 years of anguish and the need to protect his home. He shows no mercy. Every suitor is executed. The house is finally completely cleansed. The palace is quiet. The bodies are dragged out. The air is thick with the smell of death. Odysseus, covered in blood, orders the execution of the disloyal servants who had betrayed him and sided with the suitors. They are hung without trial. The kingdom of Ithaca is being purged of all its corruption. The final confrontation is with Penelope. He has changed. He is older, scarred, and worn. His face is weathered by the sun and salt. He is a stranger to her. She is unsure if it is really him. She is cautious. To test him, she orders a nurse to move a bed from their bedchamber. Odysseus explodes in fury, declaring that the bed was built around a living olive tree and cannot be moved. Hearing this secret detail, known only to her husband, Penelope knows it is truly him. She runs to him and they embrace in a powerful, emotional reunion. After 20 years, they are finally in each other's arms. The emotional weight is immense. They have both suffered unimaginable loss, but they have survived. But this epic journey is not simply about returning home. It is about redemption. In the final moments of the film, a devastating realization comes to Odysseus. He recalls a memory from the fall of Troy. He sees his men dragging a woman from the temple. It is the very woman whose image he saw as the goddess Athena. He realizes that he witnessed a beheading of a woman who looked like the goddess, perhaps an avatar or mortal chosen by her, and he did nothing to stop it. He stood by while a woman who looked like the goddess was murdered. The guilt and horror of all his actions, the arrogance that cost his men their lives, the years of suffering wash over him. It is a crushing blow. He decides he cannot simply take the throne. He is a man haunted by the ghost of the past. He cannot rule his people with this weight on his soul. He names Telemachus the new king of Ithaca. He chooses his love for Penelope over the throne. He cannot face his kingdom. He wants peace. The final image is of Odysseus leaving his home and his wife behind, sailing into the unknown in search of quieter life. He finally understands that a king can't just go home, erase all his sins, and pick up where he left off. He has been changed by the journey. It is what has defined him. His journey was never about returning to Ithaca. It was about understanding who he truly is. If you enjoyed this movie explanation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment which movie you'd like me to explain next. Thanks for watching.